Great. Okay, thank you, everyone. The final students are arriving. Lanice has arrived, so we're just going to plow forward. Um, so here we go. Okay, here we are, session 6, October 9th, discussion with Helen Wang. I think you all have seen this. Helen is the founder CEO of Six Crickets, really a compelling backstory that she's going to share with you today. She's going to speak for, you went a little longer than 30 minutes this morning, but
I'll
maybe
make it
closer
shorter.
to 45. Yeah, because I think the Q&A is just so valuable.
Yes.
And then for the students in my group, I'm also going to give you afterwards, I'll give you some feedback on your essays that you handed in last week, okay? So we'll have some discussion afterwards. Okay. And here's Helen. Six Crickets is a fantastic company that I'm fairly familiar with, and having heard Helen now for the last 5 years or so speaking here, I feel like I've been on the train, Helen. And she has a BS degree from UT Austin and a PhD from Cal Berkeley, and she had a wonderful run at Microsoft Research. And here's the background on Six Crickets. You all received the link to the website. So I hope you've spent some time there. And that's it. I'm going to stop share.
All right.
I'm going to go full screen there. And there's a couple people still coming in. Sorry about this. We have some arrivers here. And there. Okay, can we all take a moment and welcome Helen Wang, please?
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. It's my yearly reflection in my personal journey as well as in our journey at Six Crickets. So it's truly a pleasure. And
I feel like this is group therapy for you, Helen.
Yes. And, whatever I shared, if it can offer any help, then it really thrills me. So I'm going to go ahead and share screen here. So I wrote a quick article at one point called From a Chinese Latch-Key Kid to American Entrepreneur. I have viewed this lecture, thanks to Joseph for the kind invitation, has been a really expansion on that initial little article. So
we're not seeing your slides, Helen. We're not seeing your slides.
You're not seeing my slides. Let me come back here and reshare screen. Can you see this now?
There you go. Yep, there you go.
Great. Yeah, so a little bit about myself. I came to the United States when I was 17 years old. I had a, very familiar and typical immigrant story from humble beginnings, and also had a great opportunities here to thrive. I will talk a little bit more about that throughout this talk. And I got my PhD in computer science from Berkeley, so that was my training, my expertise. Then I worked at Microsoft Research for 14 years. I founded and led the security and privacy research group. Has anybody here used a web browser? I like to see all of you raising your hand. And how many of you have used Microsoft Windows? Raise your hand. Yeah, a little bit less, but everyone has used a web browser. So I'm happy to share that the technology I led inventing has already touched your life. And it was a thrill to be able to innovate as well as translate that into the real world impact, and impacting billions and millions of users. I also had the pleasure of mentoring more than 30 PhD students with their dissertation topics. At Microsoft Research, we had the perk of having top of the top PhD computer science students to work on internship over the summer. So that was a great experience as well. But then 9 years ago, even with a successful career at Microsoft, I made a sharp departure from that career path and co-founded Six Crickets, and with the mission to bring the best expanded learning to every child. And we're building that fundamental technology infrastructure for the out-of-school time, and with the desire of speeding up K-12 education innovation from outside the school hours, where we believe the fastest innovation can come. And we're currently serving thousands of partners in 30 states in the US. We're also really pleased that we have the backing of the prestigious National Science Foundation. Well, I'll tell you a little bit about my journey, my origin, and sprinkle some of my own learnings through this journey, and hope that will help you in some ways. Well, thanks for this class, for introducing Six Crickets to you. You may know a little bit about Six Crickets. So today our key product is an enterprise solution for school districts to manage after-school summer programs for their students. And also we're trying to really manage and govern the entire ecosystem, which consists not only the schools and districts, but also families, and as well as suppliers, those small business that provide the programs. And this company is 9 years in the making already. So I'm happily share that by this year, I want to say that Six Crickets has prevailed. We have prevailed through the pandemic. And I think you all know earlier this year, we also had a bank run, Silicon Valley Bank, and that's our bank. We have survived through a bank run. And now we're cash flow positive. Not only that, we're scaling and we're growing, accelerating our growth. So it's a really amazing
Helen,
time.
if I can interject for a second here, having
Thank you.
kind of been on the Six Crickets train for maybe not quite all 9 years, but probably 6 or 7 of those years.
Yeah.
You should be very proud of this. And
I am.
You had to carry a rock up the hill, being in cash flow negative for many years, and
Yes.
and to through all of these challenges to get to cash flow positive, where you can start paying yourself and you're proving the economic model works. I hope you take all the pride in this moment, because it's a major accomplishment as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Joseph is an entrepreneur, experienced entrepreneur, EdTech entrepreneur himself. So yeah. I thank you for this heartfelt congratulations. And I think our journey, and
Yep.
I'm truly very proud of our team for pulling this off in rather difficult times. Well, behind not just a strong man, behind every successful work, there are people behind it. I'm not alone. I have a great team of people, and my family is the foundation that has enabled my success in this work so far, hopefully for the many years to come. My children were my inspiration to formulate the initial idea of this company. My years of training at Microsoft Research, PhD study, learning from a lot of colleagues on how to formulate problem, how to iterate, design, implementation, evaluation was my foundation on how I think and how I keep pivoting. And my partner in crime and my rock, Adam, here in this middle up picture, and we met. We were best friends in grad school, and he is the co-founder of this company. So we created this company together. So this company is also our baby. And of course, our children here are growing up with this company together, experiencing their parents' entrepreneurial journey. My mother lives with us, and she's an indispensable support for our family. She's very much important part of our family, raising the children with us together, providing that indispensable support. And I hope Helen, you all can tap into this support in your own families.
Right. And yes, Helen, Joseph. I will forever think of your kids being in the upper left-hand corner there, about, 3.5 feet tall. They're about 3.5 feet tall. So when I see this picture in the lower right of these young men, strapping young men, that's pretty amazing. So pretty amazing. Good job. I mean, as wonderful as you've done with Six Crickets, you've done a better job here, I think.
They're wonderful. They're wonderful children. They care about Six Crickets. They ask me about how things are going, whether I'm innovating. They're checking on me. And they're also learning the lessons about not giving up and how to think about things strategically. So I appreciate this journey for their education as well. And that picture on the lower right is from this summer, so that's very close to the present. Thank you, Joseph. So as you know, Joseph may have mentioned, my roots are from China. I was born in Beijing. I grew up for the first 7 years in Beijing, China. I owe a lot of who I am to my roots. I think our Chinese tradition has given me a lot of the foundations for me to do any kind of work, the work ethic, and not giving up, and the willingness to take on the sufferings and keep moving forward. Yeah, so I really owe a lot to this tremendous Chinese heritage and tradition, and the learning and the teaching from thousands of years of history. Yeah, so you see these wonderful memories that I had. I had a beautiful childhood. My parents here, when they were look younger than I am now. So here is the Tiananmen Square, and my dad and I, we skated on the river outside the Forbidden City. And here on the upper right, I was riding that green bicycle. The brand is Flying Pigeon. I was cruising through the hutongs in Beijing from my home to school and Tiananmen Square and everywhere. And over the summer, because my family, my parents, they were teaching in the university, and their department often organized outings to beaches and Qingdao and Beidaihe, this kind of beautiful vacation spots. So I had I really enjoyed those time thoroughly. I still look back on those and being very happy having those kind of experiences. And well, then we went to America. I started with my father, and here, my father on the leftmost, he had $400 in his pocket, came to the United States. I hope every one of you has much more in your pocket than he did. Then 3 years later, my mother joined him at the Los Angeles airport and lost all of her luggages. And then a couple of, one more year later, I joined them. But before that, you see my mom and dad holding all these letters. These are the letters we have exchanged over 3-4 years period of time, 3 years, I think. And back then, we read letters. And my dad annotated these two pictures in our album with this line of poem, a very famous poem from a very famous poet in China from like thousands of years ago, expressing the longing for being together. Well,
What
I
does
made
it
it to a
say for our
yeah.
non-Chinese speakers? What does
Yeah,
that say?
it's just saying, when are we going to be together and cutting this candle. Maybe it's something to do on the window, and then we can talk together deep in the night about the rain, about the night rain, about the
Wonderful.
loneliness and missing one another. So it's one of the most famous poem and poet in the Chinese, throughout the Chinese whole history. So it's and my father is a very he knew a lot of literature and history, so he could, these things just come out of his mind, and he would write it down. And he's a very romantic guy, I guess. I made it to America, and my family made sure I received the best education. So they moved into a tiny apartment in the richest neighborhood, because they have the richest high school with the best education in that richest public high school. So that was me over there on the right-hand side. That was in the yearbook of that year, tasting Mexican food for the first time. And that summer I experienced my very first job at a fried chicken store, fried chicken restaurant, and just like like American tradition, high schoolers go and find some job and experience some life and work. But I had, I was very fluent with "Hi, how are you doing?" Those two lines that quickly got me this job, but not so much into it. Then they realized, gosh, this gal doesn't really understand anything. I was put at a position to take drive-by orders. So people will order on the phone with a lot of static, and then I got to take the order. And then one time there was this guy driving through, whenever he says something, my colleague was saying something at the same time. That happened 3 times. And this guy drove by with great anger. I want coleslaw and blah, blah, blah. And the next day I was fired because my English was not good enough. I didn't really enjoy that job and that experience. And I told myself that I will never work just for money again. And then some maybe 10, 20 years later, I visited Dallas again and I sit with that manager still at that place, managing that restaurant. And I had a nice chat with him. I said, I used to work for you. And let's have a picture at this table. And the very table I was fired. That was my very first job. He was a really nice person. So I want to say that I think you can see, you know, I started from a very humble beginning in the United States. My dad had only $400 in his pocket when he arrived, and he had family and so on. So we were certainly poor. I want to say that I think one thing I would, you know, say, you know, I think I would like to encourage you to do, and it is to aspire and to dare to aspire, no matter what kind of situation you are, whether you are poor or you're rich, whether you're in a difficult situation or whether you're comfortable. And I think it's just always hugely important and meaningful. And I hope everyone would enjoy themselves by being able to invest in yourself and taking that risk and grow and have a exhilarating journey called life. So I want to give you some examples how I gave us some of these opportunities. You know, so my family was difficult, not only, you know, financially, but also my father actually was diagnosed cancer on the day pretty much like the following week, he was diagnosed with cancer. So that was a huge blow for all of us. After so many years, we got reunited, and and we're being thrown into another really difficult situation. And then finally, you know, I graduated I went to UT. UT Austin is definitely my kind of school. I'm no longer in that rich high school I felt out of place, where 16-year-olds get brand new cars as present. I mean, at UT Austin, there are a lot of kids just like me. I really enjoyed that setting. I felt that was my college. That's my place.
It's funny, Helen, because I consider UT Austin such a party school.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I was not in those parties.
No, exactly.
Yeah, I graduated with highest honors in computer science from UT Austin, and I got a nice job. And I wanted to be with my family because that was really the last year of my dad. So I got a nice job at a company called Nortel, nice salary, and for the first time we feel, oh gee, you know, it's getting, we're not as stressed, we're not as, because I have a job. Of course, there's still the sickness and so on going on as the shadow in our life. But then that year, you know, we said goodbye to my father, and even though it was comfortable, it was better life, better financially, and then we were also no longer have sickness around us. But I decided that I will quit my job. I want to pursue the PhD in computer science at Berkeley, the #1 computer science school, to pursue my passion in doing research in computer science. So there we go. So then that was a journey in itself. You know, when you know, in a top university, you always wonder, okay, everybody's smarter than me, right? So you need to overcome that, and I did. I did it well, and then I ended up I was hired by Microsoft Research, which was really the #1 research lab in computer science. Guess how many women they have in their system networking research group I was hired into? You can raise your fingers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, feel free to raise your fingers. Give your guess. You have 2 hands. You can say this was 10, and yeah. Okay. 3, 2, yeah, okay. When I got there, 3, someone say 3. When I got there, there was another gal there. Then I arrived, so that doubled the number of women there. And I was really intimidated by that environment. It's a lot of white males, um, and people are very, very are very smart. They are very smart, and I was scared to ask questions and so on. But thank goodness I had actually great colleagues, a great environment. I was able to flourish in that environment. I became confident. I formulated my own research projects, which was very successful, and that impacted the product in significant ways. And then I was promoted. I was even given the trust to found and lead the security and privacy research group for that company. So, and I was also establishing myself in the research community. The students would be chasing after me during the conference to do research together and so on. And I received the Gold Star Award from Microsoft for my technology transfer efforts. And I had kids and all that. And wow, life was much more comfortable. I also have a family. But I did quit Microsoft Research. So that's an example of dare to aspire, even in comfort, even when you're doing well. You can always aim for the next thing. So I quit Microsoft because of my experiencing planning for my children's summer programs. And I'm working, my kids are out of the school in the summer. I need to figure out all the planning. That was a hugely difficult process. And that just spoke to me. That area is not yet in 21st century. But every parent has to go through that. So yeah, so I think that spoke to me as a big opportunity. So I quit Microsoft, even as a mom, even in a very comfortable situation. I believe education is so important for our society, for the world. So that's something that's worth taking the risk for.
So
And at
let
one
me,
point, we were passing.
if I can interject, Helen, because I think this is a great teachable moment. Certainly for my group and Professor Ruiz and Professor Stevenson, I'm sure you shared this. You know, every great entrepreneurial effort starts with an insight, right? And you saw something in that moment, right? You saw something in that moment, and it gave you confidence to jump off. And I think this is a good, sort of case study of all that.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it did take courage to do so. Um, yeah, so at one point I was passing out the flyers to families, and my mother was helping me with that effort as well. And she was saying, "Aren't you a computer scientist? How come you're doing minimal wage work of passing out the flyers?" Then I told her, "But this time, I'm not working for money. I'm working for a big vision. I'm trying to change the world." Um, well, the key question is it worthwhile for you to take such a big risk? As a mom, I have kids at 5 or 7. Is it worthwhile for me to take this risk? What does it take? How big of an idea, an opportunity, does it worth for me to go for that? Yeah, I think the key question is to aspire for what? My advice here is to find that inevitable future you believe in and that you're passionate about. I'll give you some other examples. Jeff Bezos at Amazon, he's had a vision of building an everything store from the start. He did not name his company books.com because he has always wanted to build everything store, right? And Elon Musk, because he believes that's the inevitable future, we have the internet, and that's the inevitable future. And Elon Musk, in the face of climate change, in the face that humanity is the only one, to our knowledge, that exists in this universe, he thinks the inevitable future is we need renewable energy in all aspects of life. We may be running out of space on our planet. That's why he started Tesla, SpaceX, and so on. Yeah. So for me, the inevitable future is that, wow, gee, half of the K-12 education is untapped. Every year, parents work for 2,000 hours. Our students in school for only 1,000 hours. This whole other 1,000 hours, parents are still working, but the kids are out of the school. And that's very underinvested. That's pretty much not organized. It's very painful for families, painful for those who provide the programs, painful for the school or districts to organize their staff to provide something meaningful. Of course, it's an immense opportunity for engaged learning. If you see those successful high school graduates, when they do research projects, when they do this and that, and oftentimes it's the out of school time that made the difference. And we clearly see the glaring opportunity gap. And this is where, if we can make this equitable, we're changing many generations to come.
Right. Just to reinforce what I said earlier, Helen, I mean, there's your insight, right? I mean, you really saw
Yes.
this big gap in the marketplace that really no one was filling in any meaningful way.
Yeah.
Or certainly
exactly.
not systematically.
Not systematically, not thinking in a long-term,
Yeah,
holistic way.
big scale,
Big
right?
scale way, exactly. So this is how should the expanded learning, out of school time learning should be. We want to bring this forth to every student. And why this is a good business? If we can impact every student, this got to be a big, great business. Well, if you have figured out your aspiration, if you know here is a big problem you want to pursue, it's probably a pretty big problem. Then what's left is to pursue it with relentlessness. So sometimes when you create this new startup company, you're blazing a new trail. The trail is not clearly cut. You need to discover what the trail is, and you need to figure out how to blaze it. No one has ever done it. So that's why it needs a relentlessness. No one can tell you exactly how that could work out. Don't rely on your own experience 100%. Yeah, your experience is great, but don't think your greatness is sufficient because you're doing something unknown. And you also don't need to fear for the lack of experience because you're doing something new nobody's experienced. Don't take no for an answer so easily. And there's when people say no, you got to look at the big picture. Maybe they're not seeing the big picture. Maybe they're not seeing why this is an inevitable future, but you see it. And don't let anyone tell you that you cannot do something when they cannot do it themselves. No one has ever done a particular startup you're doing, and someone tell you, oh, this is not going to work. But they have not done it. Right? So this line came from the pursuit of happiness. I think that's so meaningful. And here's my line, my proverb, and you can quote on me. Helen Wang said this. There are no failures in life, but only pivots. When the problem is too hard, change the problem. Make it easier.
And Helen, you have said that in past years, and just to affirm you, I have used both lines in business meetings.
Thank you.
But I just need to be clear. I don't cite you when I say it. I pretend I invented the line.
Okay. Next time you put a dash. Dr.
Yeah,
Helen
right.
Wang.
Exactly.
It's okay. Yeah, I don't really care that. So again, I think I said this before, doing a startup, especially the kind of startup, a new kind of startup, it's not like doing a restaurant business, but like, for example, Six Crickets is a kind of startup that's ask people to do things differently, right? Doing this kind of startup is very similar to doing research. Doing research is about discovering a problem, formulate that problem, figure out a solution, and figure it out. Does it work? If it doesn't work, you need to continue iterating. So doing a startup is very similar to doing research. And the hardest thing in both doing research and startup is about the problem formulation. I think we already touched upon this a little bit, right? When we say you got to dare to aspire, you got to relentlessly pursue that big idea, but it has to be big enough, right, for you to risk a lot of your life. You have kids, you have a good salary, you have comfortable reputation, and then all of that. I want to risk all of that for something that has to be big enough, has to be worthwhile. And also remember, when we talk about relentless pursuit of those big ideas, it's not 1 year, it's not 2 years. Plan for 10 years. Something you want to give it a 10 years. So you got to believe in it. It got to be big enough. It got to be impactful. So big is just means it's got to be a problem faced by many and carried by many. It's got to be a real unsolved problem. It's not like you have a hammer, you look for a nail, right? And your solution got to make a big difference. Here, I believe our solution can change the education, can be an innovation engine. And I believe that's so huge. That makes a difference. And you should be the right people to solve it, right? So, are you experiencing this problem yourself? Do you have that special insight? In my case, I'm a parent and I interface with the school, I interface with those summer camps and program providers often. So I have firsthand experience. So you also need to have some of these insights about the problem you're solving, or do you have also the right skills, the right team to solve it? Yeah. So we do need to be the right people solving it. So if I'm a mid-aged person, I should not be doing a social network for teenagers because I don't understand how they socialize with one another. So that would not be the right problem for me. But this one is. Well, this is a big market. We have 38 million K-8 students. And just look at the current after-school market. It's already $90 billion. Current summer camp market, it's already $18 billion. I believe this will increase especially after pandemic, as we see more and more the students can tap into the out-of-school time to be engaged. So when I was a graduate student, my advisor, Randy Katz, has given this left diagram to everyone. So he told us, in your qualifier exam, when you present your thesis proposal, and at the end, when you present your dissertation, please include that. This is about design, implement, evaluate, and this is a circular because it's an iterative process. Because you're doing research, because you're doing a startup no one has done, you need to iterate it so that you can find your solution actually, or find your problem. When the problem is too hard, make the problem simpler. And again, my famous quote, there are no failures, but only pivots. Only when you're going through cycles, you will see this doesn't work, but that's not failure. That's the information for you to innovate. Our first iteration is a consumer-facing, family-facing public marketplace. It did not work very well because it's a marketplace. It's two-sided marketplace. Bootstrapping two-sided marketplace is simply hard. So iteration number 2, well, we learned that a lot of people, when they do public marketplaces, it's hard to co-strap both. How about we support one side? Let's support the supplier side by giving providers a registration system. That is a good idea. That is done in any other businesses as well. But the problem is that it still didn't work. There are too many competitors. It's hard for us to stand up. Iteration number 3, the following year. Gosh, school is a unique place where the providers come to the school to teach after school programs. Gosh, that's a great idea. So we started selling a management solution, which is letting the PTAs, Parent Teacher Association, parents, volunteers, to use our tool to organize their own little marketplace for their school. We had a breakthrough that year. We got 16 times growth, 2017, and 7 times growth the following year. However, selling to each individual schools and these parent volunteers, they're volunteers, they're not there working full time and devoted to this. So it's really slow. So we got to do some more on the district. So we have district tools to help scaling faster. We also added more tools to support extended care programming, another style of out of school time programming. And we have sustained a good growth. We grew 5 times that year. Then 2020, we all know what happened. COVID hit the world. And in 1 week, we lost all our income for the next quarter. When family canceled the classes, we returned all our fees. So all the income goes into the air. So immediately, well, people are trapped. Let's launch virtual classes. I never believed in virtual classes before, but now it has become a necessity. So in 1 week, our platform was able to support virtual classes. And in the following month, we were able to get lots of great virtual program providers. And in just 3 months, we ramp up from 0 revenue to 1 million transaction for virtual programs. Even schools are using our management tool to manage virtual classes. So that was a really interesting time. 2021. Well, our tools can only be used by those schools who already have enrichment. If they don't have any enrichment, they don't want to use our tool. They don't even know how to get started. Well, let's have a more substantial service. Let's just do everything for them, called turnkey enrichment solution. So with that, then every American district or school can be our client. You have enrichment, you can use our tool. If you don't have enrichment, we'll do it for you. So that's what happened in 2021. Now we're in 2022. Six Crickets is that platform for the entire out-of-school time operation. And if you want more services about enrichment, and we have more substantial services supporting. And another really important thing is to connect the out-of-school time programming with that in-school operations. This way, we can evaluate the student outcomes. And this is the year that we have truly found the product market fit, and we're cash flow positive. And now we're accelerating our growth. So fundamentally, Six Crickets is a platform. It is the much needed infrastructure for K-12 out-of-school time programs for the entire ecosystem. It provides solutions to the districts. It provides solutions to the suppliers. It provides a solution to the consumers, parents. And this will be a big market. We will be a big company. So we have already supported 6.7 million enrichment learning hours, thousands of providers, 750 schools in 178 districts in 30 states. Yeah, with all of that, I want to say, you want to aspire to take risks, and you want to pursue it with relentlessness. But there's another thing. That's the foundation before all of that, is to maintain your balance. Family and health come first. They're your foundation before taking the big risk. You got to seek help and collaborate so that you have less work. Lean in, right? If you have kids, make sure both parents are engaged in raising the kid, not just one party. If you have families, parents who can support you, lean in on them. They can help you, they can enable you. To sum up, yeah, I just want to share my little learnings with you. Hope this is helpful. From the movie, great movie called Pursuit of Happiness. Don't let anyone tell you what you cannot do something, especially when they cannot do it. Identify that inevitable future that you're passionate about and relentlessly pursue that. There are no failures in life, but only pivots. When the problem is too hard, change the problem and lean in. That's all. And this whole thing initiated from this article that I wrote for our local newspaper. And I really appreciate this opportunity working with Joseph because it has really expanded this initial seed I planted. I hope this is helpful to all of you, even a little bit. Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Fantastic. Can we take a moment and give Helen a round of applause, please?
Thank you, everyone.
Great. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to call on a couple of my students to ask a question that they've written in. And then Professor Weiss or Professor Stevenson, if you have some of your students that have a question, maybe you can call on them as well. Helen, I know you've got at least some constraint here on time, so you blow the
Yeah.
whistle whenever the
Yeah.
whistle needs to be blown, and
Sure.
we love every minute with you. It's a blessing to have you. So
Same for me.
okay, wonderful. So let's start with Gu Li. I thought you had an interesting question about how does Helen go about picking her partners and picking her employees. So Gu, if you could ask your question, please. Thought I saw her earlier. Am I mispronouncing her name? Guo. Gu. Is that the correct
Cool.
pronunciation? Guo.
Cool.
Guo. Okay, close
Yeah.
enough, right?
Yeah, close enough.
Maybe she's not here. Okay. Okay, then I had another person. Hold on. Mi Shen. I thought it looks like you've done a little review of the testimonials from schools and districts. So maybe you want to ask your question about feedback from that Helen's getting from schools and districts.
Yes. Hi, Helen. And after
Hi, Audrey.
in the testimonials from school and districts, I noticed that most comments revolved around how sixth bracket has enabled them to manage students better, communicate with parents, and streamline various processes, including checking, payments, and feedback. Could you please share the major challenges you faced during the initial interaction with school and districts and how you overcome them?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. I think, yeah, for school districts, I think getting the meetings, initially getting that meetings takes a lot of effort. Um, but once we have the meeting, and I think convincing for us, it's easier because, yeah, so I would say that that's the challenge. The challenge is really because the district leaders, sometimes they're so busy, they're inundated with a lot of work. And so I guess, the key, I think we're still trying to do better on that aspect, is how to get their interest initially, get them into a meeting. Once we're in a meeting, most of our meetings, almost 90% of our meetings are very, very good meetings. Even if we don't win them immediately, we know that we can win them later. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Jingyi Zhu. I thought your first question, which is a natural follow-up to the prior question, is how do you get feedback from your target audience? Early on, Helen, these students all have to come up with a product idea, right? A project idea.
Yeah.
And so
Great.
they're trying, how do you get that initial feedback? So Jingyi, if you can ask your question, please.
Yes, my question is giving under your education in computer science and the current work experience, how do you gather feedback from your target audience? And like the people such as of us who are just starting our business, what advice do you have on and how we get more effective and accurate feedback for the products or the program?
Yeah. So I would say this is a great question. The key feedback is very simple. Talk with your potential customers. If you want to build anything for anyone, don't build anything yet. You can describe your idea. You don't even need to implement anything. You can draw it. You can go and talk with your customer and ask them, is this something you need? Or even before, ask them what they need. This is what you need. So when you have something, you already have what I call a nail. I'm sorry, what I call a hammer. Then you're starting looking for the nail. Like, which problem should I use this hammer for, right? So I think if you have some ideas, you should talk with those customers first to understand what are their biggest challenges. What do they need? And that can change your perspective a lot.
Great. Thank you, Helen. Professor Ruiz, I'm sure a couple of your students have questions.
Oh, I see a hand up there from Chenki.
Chenki Mang? Yeah, go ahead, Chenki.
Hi, Helen. I want to ask,
Hi, Chunky.
yeah, hi. There's so many summer schools and online study platforms now, and so I want to ask, what's the thing you think make the sixth cricket so outstanding and special to attract the parents and children to, to join it? And there are so many competitors on the market. So how to solve this problem?
Yeah, which competitor did you identify for us?
Yeah, as I said before, so many summer schools, to communicate with the many universities, they provide the summer school curriculum to the children.
Okay, yeah. So there it is. So they are not our competitors. They are providing the programs. We are a technology management solution. So what Six Crickets is a high-tech company. Six Crickets is a technology company. Six Crickets does not have a curriculum. Six Crickets does not have a staff to teach. Six Crickets is a technology for organizers to use our tool to organize.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. Rudy, do you have another student?
Yes, thank you. So a little bit of a kind of a pivot from there, so to speak, in terms of competitors more generally. My student Rain has a question.
Great.
Hi, I just wondering if the competitors are quite strong and that I cannot win them. Then how can I manage my company well? Do I need to transfer to another kinds of company to sell other kinds of goods, or find another way to manage it well?
I'm not sure. I don't quite get the question. If you could repeat it.
If the competition seems too far ahead of the game, does that mean give up on the idea, or how do you approach that?
Yeah, if the competitors are too far ahead of the game, you want to see what do you have to offer. If what you offer is not as good, then you don't have a product. If what you offer is hugely better, that could still be very. But then there's also the question: what's hugely better? Is that what the customer wants? Is that important for the customer?
Can you also add, Helen, your thoughts around market segments, as far as maybe there's a competitor that has won certain markets or certain segments?
Yeah, that's a great point, Professor Roos. Yeah, so another thing is you may have a niche, right? And for this niche, if it's a big enough market, and if you have a specialized solution for that niche, right?
Great.
Yeah.
Professor Stevenson, you probably have some students that want to ask questions.
I'm just gonna give my students, whoever wants to ask a question can go ahead and ask the question. All right, we'll come back to my students.
Okay. Chun, I saw you raise your hand earlier. Do you want to ask a question?
Yeah, of course, why not? Yeah. Hello, Helen. Yeah, thank you for your presentation. That was amazing. And
hi, Alex.
Yeah, hi there. So I got two questions, but I believe they are related, So you're working in the Microsoft, right?
Yeah.
So that is the, I believe one of the greatest technology company around the world, right? So how did you discover the opportunity in the marketplace of education and create a Six Crickets? You was working in a technological company. That is a huge difference. How did you discover that in a technological company? And my second question is, so you had a great job in the Microsoft, and you can live well, you can have a stable life, but why did you choose to quit them?
Great questions. Yeah, so first of all, Six Crickets is a technology company. So what I'm doing is not so far from what I was doing at Microsoft. as I said, six-figure company as a startup is actually I view it as the most challenging research project I have ever worked on. It's a technology company. It's a technology solution for a real-world problem. That's exactly what I was doing at Microsoft, is to identify real-world problem and use technology to solve it, right? So that has not changed. So answer to the first question. Answer to the second question, why do I want to do that? Well, I'm a restless person. Yeah, I have achieved everything that I have envisioned, right? So, I became very established in the research community. I became a manager. But there is another factor. I had a great vision at Microsoft called SolMax. It's the activity platform. So my vision is that the operating system should be geared around supporting the activity as a central abstraction. I believe that was a great vision, and that vision came right before Microsoft Teams. But I could not get any resources to build up this vision, that's one element of it, right? The other element is, even when I was within Microsoft, I was entrepreneurial. I always think of new ideas when I have the technology. Not only I publish at the top conference, but I also want that to be part of the product. So I was already entrepreneurial. So pursuing an entrepreneurial path is natural for me. But you're right, it was a huge risk in terms of pay. I lost a lot of pay over the last nearly 10 years. But right. Sometimes here, I would say, you look at what you have and not what you don't have. So I look at what I have, we have enough.
Great, thank you. Nagak Yin Ho, you have a question, and maybe you can turn on your video too, Nagak.
Oh, hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can't see you though.
Oh, there's some problem with the camera, so I don't think it's working. Can we just
okay? Sure. Okay.
So for Helen, I was a business student, so I'm wondering what's the significant factor for you to choose campus or customers? Is it geography, distance, urban, county?
Oh, that's great. That's a great idea. That's a great question.
How do you
I think basically it's kind of you choose the customer where it's like where you have success. So here I think this book called Crossing the Chasm. I believe that's the book. It's very good. So basically, if you win some customers, and it's easier for you to win the customers around it. When you have more customers, you can expand more quickly. So in some sense, it's good to concentrate your effort. But initially that was difficult. I mean, Joseph has always advised me and said, hey, Helen, you should not have a nationwide. But do you know why I had a nationwide? Because I cannot gain traction. I wanted to go everywhere to see where do we gain traction. Now we gain traction in one area, then we're doubling down, or even 10 times down. Or
you proved me wrong, Helen. You proved me wrong. That's okay. Yeah.
No, but you were completely right, Joseph, right?
Yes.
I mean, the national focus is not really, I wanted to focus nationally. It's because I don't know where to focus.
Yeah.
Because I have not found, in some sense, I have not found the product market fit that can start blossoming in one, more focused area. So Joseph was completely right. And the right approach is to focus.
Yeah. Okay, Yuking Liu.
Helen, I'm wondering that whether you earn more right now or you earn more money when you are in Microsoft. And my second question is that you value more whether you are earn money or you are doing something good for the society as an entrepreneur.
That's a wonderful question. I have earned a lot less than when I was at Microsoft, but I hope I view that as an investment in our company. So I'm betting for this company to be successful, so that I earn so much more than before. I have not reached that state, but
Helen,
I feel that's coming.
Right. So, Helen, this is where you and I share a viewpoint, right? I went through the same transition, moving from investment banking to being a superintendent, and ultimately you've got to find things that are meaningful to you.
Yeah.
Right.
I think when I recruit people, and I think sometimes people join these companies because they find this company is a good company. It does society good. And I hope this is a company that can accomplish both, make people who work for our company successful, not only fulfilling their desire to make an impact to the society, but also reward them financially, because a good company should achieve that.
So I don't know if Guo Lee is back, but she has a really great question that follows up on that, Helen. So I'm just going to read it.
Sure.
How do you choose your team members? What are the
That's a great
characteristics?
question.
Yeah, what characteristics do you want from prospective new employees as you're going through the hiring and recruiting process?
Yeah. So we like the person to be passionate. Perhaps it's a requirement. It's a requirement for the person to be passionate about our mission and to agree with our core values. Our core values is published on our company website under About, right? There's integrity, there is execution, and execute with clear goals and so on. You can read about it. And the person wants to be all hands on deck, wants to do many different things, wants to play not just one role, but multiple roles, and wants to have this person can take a lot of initiative. So that's the kind of person we love.
Great.
And actually, every team member we have everyone is doing multiple work. Everyone is thinking creatively. It's not just taking the task their manager assigns them, but they're thinking about it. Is this the most strategic work for me to do, to contribute?
So then Go also had a great second question, which how do you pick your customers? It can't, yeah.
So that's similar to the question earlier.
Yeah, but how do you identify them? And I know you've kind of like been letting
there's the ideal customer profile. So actually very simple. Two things. The customer has the will and has the money.
Okay.
That's it. That's
beautiful. I love that. Okay, Rudy, do you have other students that have questions?
I think that's it for the ones that we had ready to go.
Okay, great. And then anybody else from Professor Stevenson's class? Great. There was one more question, and then we'll let you go, Helen, because I know you're on a tight timeline now. If Yushi Lee, Nicole, I thought your second question regarding technology is very germane right now, given the rise of artificial intelligence. So Yushi, Lee?
Yeah. Like my question is, hi Helen, my question
Hello.
is,
Hello,
how do
Nicole.
you see the role of technology involving the field of education, especially in terms of after school and enrichment program? What trend do you anticipate in the coming years?
Yeah, I don't feel what we do is so different from anything else. So what we do is in some sense is to get education field into the 21st century, right? So like Joseph saying, over the last 12 months or less, actually, since last November, the generative AI has arrived. So far, it seems like its greatest use is being a co-pilot. In education, I think metaverse also has some special aspects. If we can learn more interactively, not just through 2D window, if we can interact with one another in a way that's more closer to in person, that's also can make a huge difference.
Do you think as a result, you're going to be seeing an expansion in virtual programs, after school programs, and summer camps, or do you think the face-to-face on campus?
Right. Yeah. I feel face-to-face remains to be something that's the main.
I agree with you. I agree with you on this.
The face-to-face is a mainstay. But, you know, I think everything virtually that can be done excellently can potentially be developed locally in person as well. But on the other hand, there are areas that have no connection, no contact with, you don't have people around, you don't have that many people. Then virtual is very important for them.
Yeah.
So for some customers, that area is very important because they don't have the in-person alternative. But for like urban, suburban, in-person is hugely important. And
Agreed.
virtual may not be desired actually, because virtual has limitations, right? We need to, so far, virtual is an alternative one that in-person is not possible. So then we should think about in which areas the virtual is a necessity. Okay, it's a
Right.
necessity when the in-person is not available.
That's
Or
right.
when virtual is so special that you don't have anybody in person that can teach that material. So there are only two ways to go. It has to be extraordinary content, which I believe there's no such thing. Like for K-12, I don't think there's a content that it cannot be translated and letting a lot of people to teach it. I don't believe such a thing.
Mhm.
So I think virtual is important for the areas when in-person programs are not possible.
Great.
But there's a need.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we are already over time. So if everybody could join me in thanking Helen for a fantastic presentation. I don't
My
know if you have any-
pleasure.
I don't, maybe Rudy, do you want to give any final thank yous before Helen breaks here?
Dr. Wang, I just wanted to say thank you for both sharing about your personal experiences and also just being very open and transparent and honest about the challenges and how you've had to push through, and just, again, being very inspirational for all of us.
Thank you for your kind encouragement. It's totally my pleasure to be here, and I hope to be helpful.
Great. And I don't know if Lenise, Professor Stevenson, or if, I know you had to step out to go back to your room. Are you there?
Hi,
No.
Professor. I'm a TA for Professor Stevenson's sections.
Got it.
Yeah, I'd like to appreciate Dr. Wang on behalf of Professor
Sure.
Stevenson. Yeah, I totally agree on your ideas of pursuit of happiness, and I think we can really learn from your experience and speech. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Great.
And
Helen, do you have
best
any
wishes.
do you have any wrap up, or are we breaking out?
Yeah, I wish everyone, my best wishes, and keep pursuing what you love.
Great. Okay, everybody, let's give Helen a great send off. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, everyone, for the opportunity. Bye-bye.